Welcome back to Careers and Coffee Talk. I'm your host, Laura. In the last episode, we talked about how so many people end up in careers that they may not have chosen if they'd had real exposure to what that path actually looks like. And that raises a bigger question. What if the only way to really figure out what you want to do is to go out and try it? Today's guest has built an entire career around doing exactly that, trying different jobs, exploring unconventional paths, and showing people what the work actually looks like behind the scenes. Joining me is Gabriel DeSanti. Gabriel's the co-founder of Stage, and he's known for building what's been called the world's longest resume, trying out careers across industries and sharing what those experiences are really like with an audience of over a million people. Let's get into it. Gabriel, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. I'm so excited about this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, Laura.
Now, I forgot to ask you, do you have a coffee with you today
Oh,
or something else? Coffee cup.
there we go.
Okay.
It's a coffee cup with water.
Okay. We can let that slide. Are you a coffee
Okay, okay.
drinker?
I am, yeah, I am.
Okay.
I'm just not in my usual space, so I don't have a coffee with me today.
I got it. And it's also afternoon too, as at the time we're recording this. So I know some
Yeah.
people can't do afternoon coffee. I get that. Well, let's get into it. Before we get into your career and all that fun stuff, the work that you're doing now, I always start with the same question for everybody. As a
hmm
kid, like when you were growing up, was there something specific that you thought you might one day become?
I think the earliest job or career I imagined myself having was a baseball player.
Okay.
Um, and that was just like my, childhood dream. I liked playing baseball. I played little league and everything growing up, so that was definitely my like dream as a kid.
Were you a big fan of like The Sandlot?
Oh, loved the Sandlot. Loved the
It's
Sandlot.
a
Yep.
classic.
And then and then in terms of baseball teams, like I grew up a Yankees fan in
Okay.
a
Okay.
Derek Jeter
Lifelong New
era.
Yorker?
I grew up in Connecticut, so in the
Okay.
Northeast. But that was our team.
I get it. I didn't grow up in New
Yeah.
York, but my dad was a Yankees fan. He's from New York, so I was always
Yeah.
like, just by default, a Yankees fan.
Yep.
Sorry to any Mets fans out there. So you've dreamed about being a baseball player. Obviously, it's not what you're doing now. What
Yeah,
were
yeah.
your earliest jobs? Tell me about those.
Yeah, so my very first job, paid real job ever was a busboy in a
Okay.
restaurant. And it was I was 15 and I could start working at 15 because my cousin was like part owner of the restaurant. And there were like work laws in Connecticut around like I could work
Hmm.
like part-time earlier than 16. And so that was my very first job. And I worked there for quite a few years through my high school career.
Hmm.
And then the job that I got directly after that was for a well pump company or like a water
Okay.
treatment company. Very different, a total opposite end of the spectrum. And I actually got hired at that job from a customer that came into the restaurant. So he was like a repeat customer and he lived in
Okay.
town. And he was like so impressed by my work ethic that he would always try to recruit me. And for a long time, I was like, no, 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 no. And then eventually, like, the offer was good. And I said yes.
Yeah. So what do you feel like from those early jobs? What did you take away from those? Because those are very different types of work,
Yeah.
right? What did you learn from
Yep.
those experiences?
Yeah, so working in the restaurant, I think is almost invaluable experience that I bring with me into everything. I feel like everyone at some point in their life should have to work at a restaurant. Like you learn to deal with people and personality types and chaos and like
Yeah.
unexpected twists and turns. So I think I carry everything that I learned in the restaurant with me
Hmm.
in everything that I do now. And then at the water treatment company. It was like very manual labor work, and that was like
Hmm.
hard, dirty work. And and so I just bring an appreciation towards like, the trades. It was very much like a trade-based job.
Yeah.
And I just bring like that appreciation into, career exploration and everything that we're doing now.
Yeah. At what point did you realize, like, was it early on that you realized you didn't really want to follow a traditional path, so to speak, or did that come later?
I think I don't want to say it came early, because my parents definitely like guided me towards a traditional path. Um, but because my parents didn't have traditional paths. So
Okay.
I come from like a family of entrepreneurs, all like trade-based entrepreneurs. So all very like hard manual work. And my parents like just wanted me to like be comfortable and like not go through the same things that same struggles that like they went
Hmm.
through. And so they guided me towards being an engineer. And so my upbringing and kind of like my trajectory early in my life was to be an engineer of some kind.
Okay.
And we can get into this in a little bit, but like I was on the path of being an electrical engineer through school and everything like that before I decided to pivot into content creation.
Yeah. Well, tell me about that. So you were going to school pursuing kind of an engineer's path. What did that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. So, at the same time, I was working at the Well Company, like the restaurant, the Well Company, and then this like early career like exploration all kind of like happened at the same time
Okay.
because I started working at the restaurant when I was 15. Then I think like at 17, I was working at the restaurant and the Well Company. So then at this time, like I'm in high school, but my high school was very untraditional. Like I had an untraditional path, I think, in my schooling because I went to trade school for high school, which was offered
Okay.
in
Oh,
Connecticut.
interesting.
And so that's really like where my career exploration starts.
Hmm.
And so I went to school I decided to go to school for CAD, computer aided drafting and design. And that set me up to kind of go straight into engineering, which I
Okay.
got hired as a draftsman straight out of high school, which is kind of like entry level engineering, not quite like you're not
Hmm.
definitely not an engineer yet, but you're like set up for it.
Okay.
And then at that job, they were paying for me to go to school to get my electrical engineering degree,
Okay.
which I started but never finished. So that's like this has all happened to me like very early in my life. By the
Yeah.
age of 19, like hired as an entry level engineer, like working in the field for 2 years, and before I'd like decided to pivot. So like there was a lot that happened real early for me.
Yeah. What was it that really grabbed your attention about trying different jobs? Because you were on, like you said, a pretty traditional path.
Yeah,
Maybe unconventional in the sense that you were like very young starting out,
yeah,
which by the way is a whole nother conversation, right? Because like we're
yeah,
deciding at like 18,
hmm
19 years old, like what we're going to pursue in terms of education, which is setting us up for our
yeah,
future. So what was it
yeah.
that kind of I don't know, got your attention or made you think like, I
hmm
don't know if this is for me.
Yeah, so trade school like was that exploration for me. So when you
Hmm.
go to trade school, or at least in my experience at trade school, the first year is your exploratory year. And so
Hmm.
you try all the different trades that are in the school
Okay.
before deciding the one that you're going to pick and get certified in. And so that was my first exposure to trying all different careers,
Oh, cool.
from automotive to culinary to carpentry to machine shop to hairdressing. Like I was exposed to so many different like things that I could be.
Hmm.
And you learn what you like, but more so what you don't like, and that
Yeah.
guides you on your way. So that was my first exposure to a lots of different careers in like a short amount of time. And
Yeah.
that I think helped set me up.
It's really cool that your school sort of fostered that for you, kind
Yeah.
of set you up for, for that exploration going into, your adult life. What did people in your life say when you started doing this, like trying different things and did
Yeah.
it start like gradually or was it like, I think I'm gonna try some different jobs and figure out what works for me? Like how did that go?
So like my career as a content creator, like I will say like I'm a content creator first, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my career as a content creator has been like very all over the place.
Hmm.
And so there's, more than half a decade of trying different things just as a content creator, like trying to figure out what worked for me and what
Yeah.
my voice was. It's just like any industry, like there's so many subcategories within that industry. So it's like, where do you even go? Like, you don't know. You have to experiment to kind of try it
Hmm.
out and figure that out. So it probably took like 6 years or 7 years as a content creator to figure out my voice. And then once I started or like had this idea of like, what if I really did try other people's jobs? like it really got the interest of a lot of people around me. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, like that's really cool. Like everyone's kind of nosy, so everyone like wants to see into other people's lives. And that was a little bit of like the thinking that I had behind it.
Okay.
And so it really got the interest of a lot of people around me.
Yeah. What do you think people were responding to, like in the, once you
Hmm.
kind of settled on like trying different jobs as your content creation path, what was
Yeah.
it that people were that was clicking for people?
I think people could immediately like start dreaming about the possibilities for themselves. And
Yeah.
I think that's what I try to bring to each episode is like a little bit of light and awareness of like the way you're doing it doesn't mean it's wrong, it doesn't mean it's right, but like there's other ways. And I think it like really kind of allowed people to dream and does allow people to dream
Hmm.
of like what their future could look like in a different career path. And so I think that that was something that people like gravitated to early.
Yeah.
Um, and it just like it shows people's like stories and perspective, and it allows people to see things in totally different ways that maybe they didn't even know existed. Discover careers that maybe they didn't even know existed, and that's
Hmm.
like half of it in terms of like trying to pick what we want to do with our careers is like what's even out there that we're
Yeah.
interested in. And
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and that's like what I hope to bring and put in front of people is like maybe you can discover something new.
Yeah. We totally relate to that because that's kind of the idea of this podcast. So it's why
Yeah,
it made sense for us to talk about this. As you're figuring out, as you mentioned, it took like 6 or 7 years for your content
yeah.
to really like take off. What
Hmm.
did you find like wasn't working? Like what did you realize, okay,
Mm.
this I got to stay away from like this type of content or this type of, what was not working? Because that's always interesting to hear
Oh
too.
man, I mean it like I tried everything under the sun, like
Yeah.
from doing like silly dancing videos to like meme content. I've like tattooed my whole leg, like trying to go viral. Like I experimented with so many different things. I like have a whole like channel of like old vlogs that I made with my friends. Like over the years, like I tried so much stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think it worked because it wasn't me yet. Like
Mm,
I was making content which I generally liked, I suppose, but it wasn't like authentically me, authentically my
yeah.
voice, authentically the thing that I needed to be making videos about.
Yeah.
And so I think that when I found and like discovered like the job content and then I liked making the videos about that, it was just that's uniquely me.
Hmm.
And like that's when it worked. And so I think like when I think about other people who find success as content creators, I think they finally find the success when it's like authentically them.
Yeah.
And I think that like translates to people's careers too,
I was
like
just
when
gonna
they
say
find
that. Yeah,
success, right?
totally.
Yeah.
You really have to find what works for you. And a
Mm,
lot of that is like just like content creation. It's trial and error. It's figuring out what feels right. And so I
yeah.
think that's why this is an interesting concept too. Um, I think the other part of it too is like putting yourself out there on the internet is like it sounds easy till you actually do it and it's like it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Did you ever find did you find it was natural to you or comfortable for you or was it like something you really had to work through, kind of like I don't know if like imposter
Hmm.
syndrome is the right you
Sure, yeah,
know
yeah.
label to put on it, but there's like this
Hmm.
discomfort that comes with it.
There's definitely a discomfort that comes with it. I think, when I started making videos over a decade ago, I just genuinely liked making videos and I wasn't even thinking about like who the audience was or like being in front of the audience. Like I just started making silly little videos because it was
Hmm.
what I liked to do the most. And that's just kind of carried into like what I'm doing now. So I guess I struggle, but I don't struggle. Like sure, there's like you got to get over like filming in public and like holding the camera in front of like a crowd of people. Like
Yeah.
that's always I don't think that'll always be like nerve-wracking for
Yeah.
me, but it's just like comes with the job. So like
Hmm.
if you want the job, like you got to do it.
Yeah.
Um, but of course it could be like nerve-wracking. It still is. I don't know.
Yeah,
It always
every
will be.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like every time I start recording an episode, I'm like a healthy dose of nervous. And then we get
Yeah.
into it and it's like, it's good. It's just because
It's because
it's
you care about
authentic
it.
and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think when the passion is there, it really it makes a difference.
Yeah.
So with your silly little videos, you're really getting a behind the scenes look, right, at jobs
Hmm.
that most people will only ever see from the outside. So
Yeah.
tell me about maybe one job where the
Hmm.
reality was completely different from what most people would think.
And I think that everyone's like reality is so different, and so a part of the videos that I like to bring to light is just like presenting people with the facts of like
Mm,
this is this is what you get. And some people like know exactly what that is because that's their reality, and other people like, whoa, like I didn't even like, you know, know that that's what it was like.
yeah.
I think a an example of a video that like really like kind of blew people away
Hmm.
was um I did a video with like a hot dog vendor
Okay.
in New York.
Okay.
And I know this is a little bit of an obscure example, but like I like sometimes there's just like passiveness to those people, unfortunately. It's like you walk by them on the street and it's like you think
Hmm.
they're just like serving some street food,
They're part
but
of the
they're really,
landscape almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
but there really is like so much like love and passion that goes behind it for these people. And so I think being able to show that these are people too, and like
Yeah.
this is a real job, a real career, and you
Yeah.
can make some pretty decent money doing it.
Yeah.
Um, like I think that was like important to do, and great for people to see. So I think that that's a video where I saw like
Yeah.
lots of reactions to it of like, wow, like this guy has been through a lot, and like it really takes a lot to do this.
Yeah. To be successful, right?
Hmm.
Have you
Yeah.
ever tried, not to call out any specific careers, but is there anything that you've tried that you thought you would really love and then you didn't?
Honestly, the way I go into it is like I'm just open. So I don't necessarily know if I have a direct like yes
Hmm.
answer to that question, like I just like I thoroughly enjoy every like room that I walk into and every job that I walk into.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm sorry, I don't necessarily have like a real good, I don't have like a real juicy answer for that
Oh
one.
man.
I know.
What was the first job you tried when you started doing this?
Yeah, the first one was with a real estate agent.
Okay. How was
Yeah,
that?
and I mean, it was great. Like I I know I still only know a fraction about real estate, but I got to spend the entire day with them and like took some tours of different apartments, saw him working with some clients and
Mm.
setting up meetings and stuff. And like it's not as glamorous as like a lot of people make it seem. Like I feel like being a real estate agent is one of those jobs where you can get sold real easily on the dream of
Mm.
like you work for yourself and like you're kind of like an entrepreneur, but like maybe you have stable income, but like
Yeah.
it's like really not glamorous.
Yeah.
And especially in your early years, like you're grinding.
Yeah.
And so, I think we were able to like bring some of that perspective. And I
Yeah.
definitely saw some of that perspective of like, wow, like this is hard work. This is hard
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emailing and like meetings are like not that glamorous in general. But I
No, and
think,
like running from appointment to appointment to appointment,
yeah,
like you're very much like you're not working on your schedule, you're at the mercy of your clients or
totally.
at the mercy of showings and like needing to sell, right? So you're not like living this like glamorous like glitz and glam like lifestyle
Yeah.
that it's often shown as.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Selling Sunset and like
Yeah.
all the spinoffs, and like it's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
not that glamorous in like,
Mm-mm.
Cincinnati.
Unfortunately not. No.
You've had the chance to explore a lot of different paths in a way that most people never
Mm.
do. Why do you think so many of us feel like we have to like choose a path? You have to choose a path in college or whatever that looks like, and then just like stick with it and move up the ladder and never deviate.
I mean, it's how the system was designed. I mean, for generations, like you had family run businesses, or like your dad was a farmer and then you were a farmer and then your kids were farmers, like for generations and generations and generations. Like that's just how it was
Hmm.
until like the more recent generations when people like started to deviate because we were allowed to, and like we just new opportunities arose. but there is still this like very formal structure and system that's in place that we're like told to follow
Hmm.
and told that that's what success is, right? It's
Yeah.
like at such a young age, you have to pick what you want to do, and then you go to school for that, and then you just do that because you spent all this money on it. So there's like part of the system that like tells us to do it, and then the other part of the system almost makes us feel like we're stuck doing
Hmm.
that because we just committed so much time and resources to studying to become that like
Yeah.
now we feel like we have to do that. So, unfortunately, I think it's, you know, because there's not necessarily infrastructure to explore and really discover. We're just like told to choose without
Hmm.
having that exploration.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
When you were younger, I'm sure you had an idea, speaking of success, of what that looks like. How do you think that's
Mm,
changed for you after, all that you've experienced so far?
Hmm. That's that's a fascinating question because now
Mhm.
I'm thinking like, what was my earliest
Yeah.
vision of success? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. But like, was it
Uh,
making a lot of money? Was it, having an impressive title? Was it,
no, that's
back when you were younger, it probably wasn't content creation because that wasn't really a thing until
n-
more recently. So
no, right.
like followers weren't necessarily the measure of success.
No, definitely not. It wasn't any of those things that you named either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't I don't necessarily know how I define success or what I
Hmm.
thought success might be.
Yeah.
Um I think it was, if I had to put anything on it, it would just be like kind of doing it on my terms.
Yeah.
Like that's what success has been to me,
Yeah.
what it is to me still. And so I think that somehow came to me earlier in life, was like success means like doing what I want.
Yeah.
Um and that's kind of vague, but I think that
You
would
know
make
it when you
sense.
feel it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you think this approach works for everyone, or do you really have to be a special kind of person to try all these different different things?
No, like I mean, in especially like in terms of like entrepreneurship
Yeah.
and like following your own way, like I don't think that works for everyone. Like some people uh benefit greatly from having structure
Hmm.
in their lives, and a lot of other people like go the total opposite direction. So it really just like you have to play to your strengths, and you can be
Yeah.
super massively successful no matter which way you go. Like I
Hmm.
feel like that's not talked about enough.
Yeah.
Like oftentimes like entrepreneurship is like sold with this dream of like you could be massively successful and like you'll be good, like you're gonna be fine. But like the truth is like you can do it no matter which way you go.
Yeah.
Um yeah.
So if someone is listening right now, right, and
Yeah.
they're ready to start exploring other careers, but they don't want to
Mhm.
quit their job,
Yeah,
what's
yeah, yeah.
something they could realistically do to test out a career that they are maybe curious about?
Yeah, of course. So at this point, in the period of time where you're talking about, this person is probably like it well developed in their careers, like they're past the point of school, but they're, they need resources, and it's hard at that point in your life to find those resources because it's a big question mark. Like career development isn't created for people who are like in the middle of their careers. It's only created for people who are like, in their early 20s and
Yeah.
in college. Um, and so you just have to go about it a little bit of a different way and have a little bit of a different lens, because a small portion of people are going to think like, okay, maybe I should go back to school to like learn
Hmm.
something new. But for the majority of people, I don't think that's really on the table. And so, an area that I like to recommend is workshops. Like, I think workshops will give you a really great insight at a really basic level and at a really like approachable and accessible level for lots of
Okay.
people, because a workshop
Yeah.
doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be, this whole big commitment. It could just be a day. It could be a
Hmm.
month, it could be a few weeks. And it'll give you an idea of like what a career is like. And you can find workshops across so many different career fields.
Yeah.
And at that point it's more approachable because it's like kind of hobbyist, and you're going to start to see the ins and outs of it a little bit, but
Hmm.
not like the full thing. So if you want to go deeper from workshops, then you can look into job shadowing.
Yeah.
And you can set out to find job shadowing on your own. find a local chef that you like, find a local artisan that you like, find a local tradesman, who maybe you hire to work on your house or whatever. And so many people are open to to job shadowing, and I think it's unfortunately like a dying uh like option. Like people don't even think about job shadowing necessarily as
Yeah.
much as like they used to. So those are like some of the things that I like to recommend to people.
Yeah. And that's the idea behind Stage, right? Is to
Yeah, yeah.
facilitate sort of that those relationships between like the person doing the job and the person who's interested in the job.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Alex and I last week talked about how that's currently available in the tri-state area in New York.
Hmm.
But uh, if there are people who are not in that
Yeah.
area, would you say
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just call somebody up who's in that type of job, find them on LinkedIn, like all the
Yeah,
above?
absolutely. So like, with stage, like we hope to bridge that gap, and that's like
Yeah.
the whole idea, right? Like we want to make it easier for people to job shadow, but we know that it's going to take us a little bit to like get to the market size that we want and to get to everybody. And so like, we will say like you can absolutely like call up the local person in your town, or the town over, like whatever
Mhm.
industry that you're interested in, like send that email, like pick up the phone, like however you have to get in contact with them. I think like oftentimes we find that like people feel honored that like you want to like
Yeah.
learn about what they do,
Yeah.
and so it's actually like not as scary as you may think. Of course, it's like it's hard putting yourself out there, and it's vulnerable
Totally.
putting yourself out there, but like we really find that oftentimes like people are so into it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think LinkedIn is a great place for that too, because it is kind of like expected that you're going to be networking professionally. So
Sure.
it's like a
Yeah, yeah.
natural, organic way to just reach out and talk to someone, start the
Yeah.
conversation.
LinkedIn works for like like the corporate professional
Yeah.
realm, but you might, if you're like interested in getting into the trades,
Yeah.
like you might find that your tradesmen like aren't on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
so like in those instances like you might need to pick up the phone or like send an
Yeah.
email or like
No, that's a good
do an
point.
office visit. Like so it really depends on what field you're trying to get into and where are those people. You just have to find
Yeah.
where those people are and then like contact them appropriately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. When you think about all these different careers and jobs that you have tried, if you had
Yeah.
to pick just one, and it can't be content creation, it has to be something different,
Yep.
what would
Yep.
you pick and stick with?
Yeah, yeah. So I did this one job. I guess it would be considered a tour guide,
Okay.
but it was more on the extreme side. Like I
Okay.
love like an adrenaline rush and doing things that are a little more extreme. So there's a job in New York City where you can hang off of a skyscraper, and it's a guided experience.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I went and they trained me to be a guide, and then I was able to bring a group up and like
Hang off
teach
the
them how to like
skyscraper.
hang off the skyscraper. And like I was all about it. Like I love that stuff so much. So if I had to pick a job that I've done, that would be the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it everything you dreamed it would be, or was it like a totally different experience from what you kind of thought going in?
Well, like it wasn't necessarily like a job that I like had dreamed of doing,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was just something that I like discovered over time, and it was better. It was way better than once I like knew about it, it was way better. I was like I was just blown away. I was blown away. And what was interesting is like I learned so much about it. So it's like the first day that I went to work there, I actually couldn't do uh any tours because the weather was bad and there was like lightning
Okay.
in the area. And so like all the tours got shut down. And so I was like super bummed, but it was a really insightful um experience into like how important like the safety measures are, not only from like the experience of like hanging off, but also
Hmm.
like things that you can't control, like the weather. Like
Yeah.
they have to take it super seriously. So it was good insight into like different facets of the job.
Yeah. But that also kind of makes me think there's like this what you think something's going to be, like you just think probably that's going to be like an adrenaline rush, right?
Hmm.
You think that real estate is going to be super glamorous and like just making a ton of money probably, right?
Hmm.
You might think a hot dog vendor is just kind of mundane or like, same thing every day, but
Yeah.
there's what you think and then there's reality. And I think that's kind of where this is really interesting is, between the
Yeah.
content creation, getting to see that through your lens, and then also for people getting to experience that. Is it when they do this through stage, like try different careers, is this like a one
Yeah.
time, like one day? Is it kind of longer than
Yeah.
that? Or
Yeah. Right now it's designed as a day, a half day
okay.
or a full day.
Okay.
And it's designed that way because we encourage people to try lots of different stages and
Okay.
lots we want you to job shadow in lots of different industries. And that comes from my time at trade school, but
Hmm.
like and during my exploratory program because I only figured out what I liked and didn't like by trying everything, right? Everything that was offered to me. And our thinking is like, how can we kind of recreate that exploratory program in a non-traditional setting? And
Hmm.
so it's just designed as one day right now, just to give you a taste of what
Yeah.
it's like, with the hope that you try lots of different things and you're like, oh, I like that a lot. And I definitely don't like this. And then you can work towards doing that more. And as we grow stage, like there will be more access into the things that you like. It's like, how
Hmm.
can we provide ongoing mentorship or longer internship opportunities? But right now it's just designed specifically and intentionally as these like bite size
Okay.
shadows.
And if someone like hangs off a skyscraper and they're like, this is it, this is my next move, this is my career, do you help connect them with the resources and what they need to continue to make that happen for themselves? Or is that kind of more of a long-term goal in the future?
That's definitely going to be a long-term goal in the
Yeah.
future. As we grow it out, we want to be more resource oriented to
Hmm.
for every part of the process. From the discovery of the career to the hiring. Like we hope to kind of like bridge that gap through the resources. But right now, it's just facilitating the job shadowing experience.
Gotcha. So
Yeah,
you've really built a career around curiosity from the
yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
You're following things, testing things, seeing where things lead. So I have to ask, what are you
yeah.
still curious about?
Oh my gosh, what's there not to be curious about? Like the world is so vast and like there's so many more jobs that I haven't even like touched. There's corners of the world that I haven't even touched. So like there's just an unlimited amount of things. But I guess to be specific,
Yeah.
um I have an ambition that I hope to accomplish this year, and this is like very top of mind for me today, which is I want to see what work looks like across America in
Hmm.
a very intentional way. So this year, I'm going to set out to do a 50 jobs in 50 states kind of
Nice.
like tour or experiment and work 50 jobs in 50 different states and just like see what does like work really look like in America. So that's what I'm super curious about right now.
Yeah. Is that what's getting you excited these days?
Yeah, that's got me really fired up. That's got me really fired up. Like I was just talking about it right before this call. It's just very top of mind.
That's exciting. Well, if people
Yeah.
want to follow that journey,
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
your 50 jobs across 50 states or any of
Yeah.
your content creation or stage, where can people
Yeah.
go to learn more?
Yeah, Instagram is probably the best place at Gabriel period DeSanti. And then also on YouTube, Gabriel DeSanti, pretty much everywhere. It's just my name. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. This is so fun to hear about, and I am looking forward to following myself and just seeing what you're going to try next.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks for having me on.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Careers and Coffee Talk. Big thanks to today's guests for pouring out so many great insights. And hey, thanks to you for hanging out with us. If this episode gave you a little jolt of inspiration or made your day a bit more brewed and balanced, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Got a minute? Drop me a 5-star review. It's basically the podcast equivalent of buying me a fancy oat milk latte. Quick disclaimer though, the views expressed in this episode are personal and do not reflect those of any organization. Anyway, until next time, stay curious, stay caffeinated, and keep chasing the career that makes you feel the most alive. Catch you next time.